The quantum-locked communication device in Yamamoto's basement hummed to life, its obsidian surface absorbing all light. The display showed only a simple confirmation: black sky initiated. He closed his eyes, feeling the weight of decades of preparation finally shifting from his shoulders to those of his hidden fleet. Outside, emergency sirens wailed across Tokyo as military jets scrambled uselessly against the Kelvary vessels. Their primitive missiles dissipated harmlessly against alien shields, like raindrops on hot metal. The crystalline invaders didn't even bother to return fire. Yamamoto emerged from his basement to find Mai still on the rooftop, her small face tight with controlled fear, the expression of a child who had been prepared for this day since she could understand words. "Are they the ones from your stories?" she asked, her eyes not leaving the glittering ships overhead. "Yes," he answered simply. "The ones I've been waiting for." "Will they take us away like in your nightmares?" Yamamoto knelt beside her. "Not if I can help it." He pressed a small object into her palm, a quantum-entangled locator disguised as a simple jade pendant. "Remember our plan. If we're separated, President Chen's security team will find you. Show them this." Across the planet, the Kelvary methodically established dominance. Their harvester probes, sleek, insect-like machines, descended into major cities, scanning humans and cataloging infrastructure. In London, protesters who approached too close were instantly paralyzed by sonic weapons, their bodies collected for preliminary compatibility testing. Resistance was minimal and futile. In her presidential bunker, Amara Chen watched real-time feeds from around the world. The Chinese military had attempted a nuclear response. Their missiles had been harmlessly redirected into space. The Russian hypersonic platform had been disabled without firing a shot. "They're toying with us," her defense secretary whispered, "showing us how useless resistance would be." "Have we heard from Yamamoto?" Chen asked, ignoring the comment. "Nothing since he went dark 3 hours ago." Chen nodded, her face betraying nothing. Only 5 people on Earth knew about Black Sky Protocol, and 3 were in this room. The other 2 were Yamamoto and his wife, who had died during the early prototype testing 15 years ago. "Madam President," her aide interrupted, "the Kelvary ambassador requests your presence for preliminary surrender negotiations. Their shuttles are preparing to land. Tell them I'm experiencing temporary radiation sickness from their arrival and need 6 hours to recover," she replied without hesitation. "Doctor's orders." "They won't believe that," the Secretary of State protested. "They don't need to believe it. They just need to accept the delay." She turned to her military chief. "How long until our lunar defense satellites are in optimal firing position?" 4 hours, 17 minutes, but they'll be useless against their shields." Chen smiled thinly. "I don't intend to fire them at the ships." She turned to her secure console and entered a series of codes known only to her. Yamamoto's not the only one who's been preparing. On the screen, a classified satellite feed showed the dark side of the moon, where a massive installation, officially a mining operation, began powering up, its true purpose finally revealed after decades of secrecy. The chess game for humanity's future had begun, with pieces moving into position across the solar system. Yamamoto's Black Fleet was merely the queen in this match. Chen had a few bishops and knights of her own in play. On the Thanatos command deck, Colonel Santos's neural implants synchronized with the ship's systems, her consciousness expanding through its vast neural architecture. Each crew member's biometrics appeared in her peripheral vision. Heart rates elevated but stable, neural efficiency optimal after the decades-long cryosleep. The ship itself felt like an extension of her body, its sensors becoming new limbs, its weapons additional fingers. "Integration complete," reported Lieutenant Quan, his voice echoing both audibly and through the neural network. The silvery implants at his temples pulsed with blue light as his consciousness merged with the ship's targeting systems. Weapons array online. Santos studied the tactical display with both her eyes and her extended consciousness, noting the Kelvary fleet positions throughout the solar system. Their confidence was evident in their formation, spread thin, focused primarily on Earth, maintaining minimal defenses around their capital ships. They hadn't bothered to establish proper perimeter security in the outer system. "They think they're hunting sheep," she murmured, "not wolves." Dr. Wright approached, her movements careful in the artificial gravity. Unlike the modified crew, she showed every one of her 73 years. "I need to brief you on the latest implant modifications before you engage," she said, projecting schematics into the neural interface. Santos processed the data instantly. During their long sleep, Wright's team had continued refining the neural technology, adding capabilities even the modified soldiers hadn't known were possible. "Quantum entanglement synaptic routing," Santos whispered, understanding flowing through her augmented mind. "You've made us faster. Your neural commands will propagate through ship systems at near instantaneous speeds," Wright confirmed. "Reaction time improved by 47% in simulations. But there's more." The next schematic showed something entirely new, a direct interface between human consciousness and space-time manipulation technology. "You want us to bend reality with our thoughts?" Lieutenant Kwan asked, his enhanced brain instantly grasping the implications. Wright nodded. "The deflection protocol. It allows partial manipulation of gravity waves and electromagnetic radiation around your vessels. Not invisibility, precisely, but misdirection," Santos finished. "We appear where we aren't, and aren't where we appear." "The technology is experimental," Wright cautioned. "Extended use may cause neural pathway destabilization." Santos laughed bitterly. "We're already monsters, Doctor. What's a little more instability?" Wright's face hardened. "You're not monsters. You're the vanguard of human evolution. The future." "A future they locked away," Santos replied, memories surfacing of the Mars insurrection, of public fear when augmented soldiers put down the colonial rebellion with efficient, calculated violence. Her enhanced memory recalled every detail of the congressional hearings, the public protests demanding the abominations be terminated. A communications alert flashed through the neural network. Yamamoto was calling. Santos accepted with a thought, his aged face appearing on both physical screens and in her mind's eye. "Colonel," he greeted her. "It's time to begin Phase 1. The crew is ready, Admiral. But before we move, I need to know, what happens to us afterward? If we survive this, will they lock us away again?" Yamamoto's face remained impassive, but Santa's enhanced perception detected micro-expressions indicating discomfort. "I've secured guarantees from President Chen. If we succeed, you'll have citizenship, recognition, freedom. And if we fail, then it won't matter what promises were made." Yamamoto's gaze intensified. "You have my word, Maya. Never again will you be hidden away. One way or another, this is your last mission." Santos nodded, decision made. She turned to her crew, their enhanced minds already aware of the conversation through the ship's neural network. "Prepare jump coordinates," she ordered. "Target the Kelveri Sentinel cruisers at the system's edge. We strike first, we strike hard, and we leave nothing but debris." As the Thanatos and 5 other Black Fleet vessels powered up their engines, Santos felt a strange emotion stirring beneath the cold calculation of her augmented mind. Something like anticipation, or perhaps even joy. The hunt was beginning. In the debris field where 3 Kelveri Sentinel cruisers had existed moments before, the Thanatos materialized briefly to confirm destruction before vanishing again. The Black Fleet's opening move had been executed with surgical precision. No distress signal sent, no survivors left. Colonel Santos reviewed the tactical data through her neural interface. "Perfect execution," she transmitted to her sister ships. "Phase 2 begins now. Scatter pattern Omega. Target their communications relays." The 6 Black Fleet vessels dispersed, their carbon nanolattice hulls absorbing all scanning frequencies as they slipped toward their next targets. Santos felt the Thanatos responding to her thoughts, its revolutionary engines bending physics in ways that would have been theoretical just decades ago. On the Kelveri command ship, Zorvan summoned his senior intelligence officer, a crystalline being whose body contained rare purple banding indicating her specialization in information warfare. How were 3 Sentinel cruisers destroyed without alert? He demanded, his crystalline body emitting the orange-red frequencies of anger. Unknown, High Commander, she replied, her form vibrating subtly with anxiety. Our analysis suggests localized space-time manipulation, consistent with primitive singularity technology, but far more refined than humans should possess. Could another species be intervening? The Arcturus Collective. The Morphin Hive. Negative. Quantum signatures are unmistakably human in origin, but the engineering principles. She hesitated. They match classified theoretical work from our own advanced physics ministry. Zorvan's crystalline body pulsed with shock. Impossible. Those papers are accessible only to high-level Imperial researchers. The logical conclusion is concerning. Humans have had access to our scientific database for some time. Before Zorvan could respond, alerts flashed as 2 communication relay stations went silent simultaneously. Their defense grids had detected nothing before destruction. At Geneva's diplomatic headquarters, the Kelveri ambassador's crystalline form vibrated with increasing agitation as President Chen's team fumbled through another procedural delay. Ambassador Crixel, Chen said pleasantly, could you clarify what you mean by neural simplification for our children? Our translators are struggling with the technical terminology. The ambassador's crystalline structure emitted frustrated harmonics. It is a standard procedure for adolescent specimens. Their neural pathways are simplified to optimize compliance and labor efficiency while preserving basic functionality. Chen's expression remained diplomatically neutral while her aide accidentally spilled water onto the translation equipment, causing another delay. Through her secured earpiece, she received updates on the Black Fleet's progress. 6 Kelveri ships destroyed, no casualties on humanity's side. Meanwhile, in lunar orbit, Lieutenant Nadia Volkova, another modified soldier, phase shifted through the hull of the Kelveri dreadnought Celestial Dominance. Unlike the heavily armed combat specialists like Santos, Volkova's modifications focused on infiltration. Her molecular structure could temporarily achieve quantum instability, allowing her to move through solid matter. Inside the alien vessel, she navigated through crystalline corridors, using augmented vision to identify critical systems. The Kelveri crew, evolved to detect the slightest molecular vibrations, sensed something amiss but saw nothing. Their confusion registered as discordant tones within their crystalline bodies. Volkova reached the central mass converter, the heart of the Kelveri propulsion system. From a specialized cavity within her modified body, she extracted a quantum destabilization device, no larger than a human thumb. The technology, reverse-engineered from the Antarctic crash site, would create a cascading failure in the ship's artificial gravity. She placed the device, activated it with a neural command, and began phasing back through the hull. As molecular integrity alarms finally blared throughout the vessel, Volkova transmitted a simple message to the confused Kelveri crew. The Admiral sends his regards. By the time she reached her extraction point, the massive dreadnought was already imploding, crushed by its own mass converter as gravitational forces collapsed inward. The destruction of such a significant vessel would force Zorvan to respond with more than token forces. The first phase of Yamamoto's strategy was complete. The Kelveri fleet was beginning to fragment, pulling ships from Earth's orbit to investigate the attacks. The invasion force was being drawn exactly where the Black Fleet wanted them, away from Earth and toward the killing ground that awaited near Jupiter. After Yamamoto's broadcast, a tense silence fell across the Kelveri command ship. Zorvan's crystalline form had gone unnaturally still, light refracting through him in patterns that his subordinates recognized as deep cognitive processing. "Find this Black Fleet base," he finally ordered. "Use every resource." Deep within the Kelveri flagship, the chief archivist Telix retreated to her private chambers, locking the crystalline doors with a genetic seal. She accessed a hidden data crystal, one kept separate from the main Imperial archives. The holographic display showed ancient star charts of Earth's solar system, taken during a reconnaissance mission 3,000 years earlier. "Fleet Commander," she transmitted to Zorvan, voice trembling slightly. "I have disturbing information regarding human technology." When Zorvan's avatar appeared in her chamber, Telex projected the ancient charts. 3 millennia ago, we cataloged an anomalous craft in this system. Non-human, non-Kelvary. We presumed it destroyed in a solar flare. She overlaid current scans of Black Fleet energy signatures. The quantum principles are identical. Zorvan's avatar vibrated with shock. "You suggest these humans salvaged alien technology. Worse, they've mastered it." Telex's crystalline form dimmed with dread. The Emperor must be informed that the humans possess derivative technology from the precursors. The word hung in the chamber like a physical presence. The precursors, a mythical species mentioned only in the most classified Imperial archives, whose artifacts predated even Kelvary civilization. On Callisto, Yamamoto monitored the Black Fleet's progress from his command center. The facility, buried beneath a kilometer of ice, housed the most sophisticated quantum communications array humans had ever built. Here, he could track each modified soldier's neural signature across the solar system. A gentle alert indicated an incoming transmission from Mai. Her small face appeared on his display, broadcast from President Chen's secure bunker. "Father," she spoke formally, aware of protocols even at her age. "The President asked me to inform you that Operation Moonfall is ready." Yamamoto nodded, understanding the coded message. "Thank you, May. Remember what I taught you about the stars?" She nodded solemnly. "That we came from them, and will return to them." "Good girl. I'll see you soon." As her image faded, Yamamoto allowed himself a moment of vulnerability, his weathered hand touching the screen. Then the Admiral's mask returned, and he turned to his tactical display. The Kelvary were repositioning their fleet, drawing ships away from Earth to hunt the Black Fleet phantoms, precisely as planned. He opened a secure channel to Colonel Santos. "The Kelvary have taken the bait. Prepare for Phase 3, full engagement at Europa." On Earth, 8-year-old Mai returned the quantum communication device to President Chen. The underground bunker bustled with activity as military leaders monitored the steadily decreasing Kelvary presence in orbit. "Your father is very brave," Chen told the girl. "He's not brave," Mag replied with unexpected insight. "He's scared, but he does what's necessary anyway." Chen studied the child closely. "Your father mentioned you have a special understanding of the stars. What did he mean?" Instead of answering, May took a piece of paper from her pocket and deftly folded it into an origami star. Then, with movements too precise for a child her age, she tore it apart in a specific pattern and reassembled it into a complex geometric shape. "The universe folds," she said simply. "Father showed me how to fold with it, not against it." Chen's eyes widened with sudden understanding. Yamamoto hadn't just been preparing ships and soldiers. The Admiral's own daughter carried another kind of modification, not physical implants like Santos and her crew, but something perhaps more profound. The realization of how deep Yamamoto's preparations went sent a chill through her. On the Thanatos, Colonel Santos felt a strange vibration through her neural implants, a signal unlike any she'd experienced. The ship's quantum sensors detected massive energy fluctuations from Jupiter's moon Europa. "Something's waking up," she whispered, both to her crew and to herself. "And it's bigger than any of us knew." The Kelvary fleet approached Europa in perfect geometric formation, a three-dimensional lattice of warships that reflected their crystalline nature. Zorvan had deployed specialized sensor drones ahead, scanning the Jovian system for any sign of the Black Fleet. "High Commander," his tactical officer reported, "we detect unusual power signatures beneath Europa's ice. The readings suggest massive energy containment systems. Deploy the Fracture Squadron," Zorvan ordered. "Break that moon open." 20 specialized Kelvary vessels, each equipped with gravitational manipulation technology, moved to strategic positions around Europa. They began generating focused gravitational waves aimed at fault lines in the moon's icy crust, intending to shatter it like a crystalline being struck by sonic weapons. Beneath Europa's surface, the true nature of humanity's decades-long scientific research revealed itself. The apparent research stations were merely the visible portion of an extensive military installation. Dr. Aisha Rahman, lead engineer of the Europa Defense Network, monitored the Kelveri gravitational attacks from her command center 15 kilometers beneath the ice. "They're doing exactly what we expected," she noted to her team. Activating countermeasures. Throughout Europa's interior ocean, thousands of counter-gravitational stabilizers activated, their technology based on the same principles as the Kelveri weapons but inverted. The gravitational attacks were not only nullified but redirected. On the Thanatos, Colonel Santos watched the Kelveri fleet deploy around Europa, exactly where Yamamoto wanted them. The 14 visible Black Fleet ships moved into defensive positions, appearing outmatched and desperate. "Are the dimensional shallows affecting your neural interfaces?" Santos asked her crew through their shared consciousness. "Minimal disruption," Lieutenant Kwan replied, his thoughts carrying undertones of anticipation. "We can maintain partial phase for 17 minutes before neural degradation becomes significant." "That will be enough," Santos determined. She opened a channel to all Black Fleet vessels. Chronosync in 3, 2, 1. The 14 visible ships engaged their specialized engines simultaneously, creating a precisely calibrated temporal distortion field. The effect was subtle but devastating. Within the field, the Kelveri ships experienced time at a fractionally slower rate than their own weapon systems, causing minute targeting errors that would become increasingly significant. From Callisto, Yamamoto gave the final command. "Europa Defense Network, execute Protocol Leviathan." Dr. Rahman input the activation sequence. Deep beneath Europa's ice, massive tectonic charges detonated along predetermined fault lines. Unlike the Kelveri's brutal approach, these explosions followed the moon's natural structure, creating controlled fissures rather than catastrophic fractures. As planned, Europa's surface split along geometric patterns, ice sheets sliding apart with surprising grace for such violence. From the widening crevices, enormous railgun batteries emerge, each powered by the thermal energy of Europa's subsurface ocean, converted through technology adapted from the Antarctic crash site. The first salvo caught the Kelveri completely by surprise. Hyperdense projectiles accelerated to near-relativistic speeds, tore through their fleet, destroying 70 ships in the initial volley before they could adjust shields. Simultaneously, the hidden Black Fleet vessels phased fully into reality behind Kelveri lines. The temporal distortion field created by the visible fleet had masked their approach perfectly. All units, Santos transmitted as the Thanatos materialized behind a Kelveri heavy cruiser. Execute checkmate protocol. What followed was unlike any battle in human history. The modified pilots, their neural systems integrated directly with their ships, reacted with impossible speed. They executed maneuvers that would kill unmodified humans, their ships dancing between Kelveri weapons fire, with precision measured in milliseconds. Within the Kelveri fleet, confusion spread as commanders received contradictory readings. Their targets seemed to exist in multiple locations simultaneously, an effect of the temporal distortion field interacting with their crystalline sensory systems. On his flagship, Zorvan watched in growing horror as his formation disintegrated. A direct hit from Europa's defensive batteries shattered his tactical officer into glittering fragments. For the first time in his long existence, Zorvan experienced an emotion he had never known: doubt. The battle for Europa had become the Kelveri's first taste of defeat in 3 centuries, and scattered throughout the solar system, representatives of a dozen alien civilizations watched with growing interest as humanity revealed its true capabilities. On Crystallus Prime, Emperor Xerix summoned his Grand Council as reports of the Europa defeat spread throughout the Empire. The crystal throne room, carved from a single massive gemstone, vibrated with tension as 12 high ministers arranged themselves in traditional formation. "Explain how primitives defeated our most advanced battle group," Xerix demanded, his massive crystalline form pulsing with bands of crimson and black, colors not seen in an emperor for 7 generations. The Imperial Enforcer, Dravix, stepped forward. "Sabotage, Emperor. The archivists must have provided classified information to these humans." "An absurd deflection," countered Minister Sorix of the Science Division, her delicate crystalline structure emitting harmonics of disdain. "The battle records clearly show technologies beyond anything the archivists could have provided. We must consider the Antarctic site mentioned in Archivist Telex's report." "What Antarctic site?" Xerix demanded. Uncomfortable vibrations passed through the council. The science minister realized her error too late. Certain information had been deliberately withheld from the Emperor. Before she could respond, the chamber's security crystals flashed. One by one, communication nodes throughout the Kelveri Empire were going dark. On frontier worlds, subjugated species had launched coordinated attacks against Imperial infrastructure. "The Vorten hives have destroyed 3 dilithium processing centers," reported the security minister. "The Talaxians have seized the shipyards at Proxima Station. The Neurona Collective has broadcast the Europa defeat to 17 systems previously unaware of human existence." For the first time in millennia, the crystal throne room erupted in chaotic, discordant tones as ministers argued without protocol. Emperor Xerix rose to his full height, 15 feet of imperial crystalline majesty, and emitted a harmonic so powerful it cracked the floor beneath him. Silence. The room instantly stilled. "I will hear from Archivist Telex immediately." A junior aide vibrated with distress. "Impossible, Emperor." Archivist Telex and her primary research team departed on the knowledge vessel Eternal Inquiry 3 cycles ago. Their destination was logged as the Sol system. Aboard that very vessel, now approaching Neptune's orbit, Telex and her acolytes prepared their most sacred archives for transfer. The Eternal Inquiry, designed to preserve Kelveri knowledge rather than project power, carried something far more valuable than weapons: truth. "Are you certain this is necessary?" asked Velum, her youngest acolyte, his crystalline form still showing the green bands of academic training. "The Emperor has chosen extinction over adaptation," Telex replied, her ancient crystalline body displaying rare patterns of solemn determination. "For millions of years, we have collected knowledge from conquered civilizations, only to keep the most important discoveries hidden from our own people." She activated a secure holographic display. It showed a vast underground chamber filled with artifacts, not crystalline, but of varied construction. At the center stood a massive device of unknown origin. "The precursor gate," Telex explained, "discovered when our ancestors were still organic beings, before the great crystallization. They feared its implications, that we were neither first nor greatest, so they buried it, along with the knowledge it contained." "What does this have to do with humans?" Velum asked. "The Antarctic site the humans discovered. It contains a smaller version of this same technology. But unlike our ancestors, humans didn't fear it. They studied it, replicated it, improved upon it." Her crystalline form dimmed with something like regret. "While we stagnated in crystalline perfection, they embraced change." On Earth, in a classified facility beneath the New Mexico desert, Dr. Eliza Wright studied new data from the Black Fleet neural interfaces. The modified soldiers were showing unexpected adaptations during combat, their neural patterns evolving in real time as they interface with their ships. "It's remarkable," she told her research team. "The quantum entanglement between their neural implants and the ship systems is creating feedback loops we never anticipated. They're not just controlling the technology anymore, they're integrating with it in entirely new ways." "Is it dangerous?" asked her assistant. Wright studied the neural patterns with the scientist's detachment that barely masked a mother's concern. "All evolution is dangerous," she replied. The question is whether it's necessary for survival. She glanced at a small photograph on her desk, a group of modified soldiers before their enhancement procedures. Front and center stood a younger Maya Santos, still fully human, smiling with the innocence that had long since been sacrificed for humanity's survival. Colonel Santos led her infiltration team through the crystalline corridors of the Kelveri flagship, their modified bodies partially phased to avoid detection. Unlike the crude phase shifting that Lieutenant Volkova had used on the Dreadnought, this was a refined technique, the culmination of Dr. Wright's latest neural interface upgrades. Central data core ahead, Lieutenant Kwan subvocalized, the words transmitting directly through their shared neural network. Guards present. Santos assessed the 4 crystalline sentries through augmented vision. Their molecular structure vibrated at frequencies indicating heightened alert status. Execute Echo Protocol, she commanded. The infiltration team activated specialized devices that emitted precisely calibrated harmonic frequencies, not to damage the crystalline Kelveri, but to create sensory blind spots in their perception. The guards continued their vigilance, unaware that the humans were now moving through their carefully planned gaps in awareness. Inside the data core, a vast chamber of crystalline computational matrices, Santos deployed the translation matrix provided by archivist Telex. Unlike conventional human technology, this device incorporated crystalline elements grown from Telex's own form, giving it recognized access patterns. 60 seconds until detection, warned Specialist Chen, the team's technical expert. Her neural implants interfaced directly with the device, monitoring its integration into the Kelveri network. As the translation matrix merged with the Kelveri systems, it began its work, not attacking or corrupting, but revealing. For decades, the Kelveri had filtered all human communications through conquest-oriented algorithms, systematically misinterpreting humanity's complexity to justify subjugation. Matrix fully deployed, Chen confirmed. Commencing data upload. The device began transmitting the true nature of humanity throughout the Kelveri network, unfiltered music that captured the full emotional spectrum, mathematical proofs that demonstrated philosophical insights, poetry that conveyed conceptual frameworks the Kelveri translation protocols had previously dismissed as primitive emotional noise. Meanwhile, at Mercury's coordinates, Admiral Yamamoto gave the command that would reveal humanity's final card. Activate Phoenix Array. Deep within Mercury's mantle, fusion reactors powered up, their energy signatures suddenly visible to Kelveri sensors. Massive hangar doors, previously shielded by the sun's radiation, slid open to reveal humanity's true military production. Hundreds of vessels even more advanced than the Black Fleet. These ships, designated Phoenix class, emerged in perfect formation, their hulls incorporating not just carbon nanolattice, but also crystalline elements that suggested a hybrid of human and Kelveri design principles. On Earth, President Chen addressed the Kelveri Empire from a restored United Nations plaza. Behind her stood not military personnel, but a carefully selected group of humanity's diversity. Scientists, artists, children, elders from every continent and culture. "We appear different from you," she stated directly to the camera, knowing her words were now being accurately translated. "Our bodies are not crystalline, but the patterns of our thoughts, the complexity of our consciousness. These are not lesser, merely different." She gestured to the people behind her. "You came expecting to find a single voice, a hierarchical structure like your own. Instead, you found a symphony of voices, a tapestry of perspectives that gives us our greatest strength." While she spoke, images from Earth's historical archives projected beside her. Humans overcoming disasters, rebuilding from wars, creating art from suffering. "We have fallen countless times throughout our history, yet we rise. We fight among ourselves, yet unite against external threats. We are paradoxical, contradictory, and unpredictable. Qualities your translation matrices filtered out as irrelevant noise, but which comprise the core of our identity." On the Kelveri flagship, Zorvan watched these transmissions with growing comprehension. The translation matrix was forcing him to perceive humans without the imperial filters, to see them as they truly were. For a being whose entire existence had been structured around crystalline perfection and predictability, the revelation of humanity's adaptable chaos was both disturbing and fascinating. As reports of the Phoenix Array reached him simultaneously, Zorvin realized the final truth. The Black Fleet had never been humanity's primary defense. It had been a test, a way to evaluate Kelveri tactics while holding their true capabilities in reserve. The Treaty of Terra signing ceremony transformed the United Nations Assembly Hall into a symbol of the new galactic reality. Engineers had modified the chamber to accommodate both human and Kelveri physiologies. Specialized crystalline resonance platforms beside traditional human seating, atmospheric composition adjustable by zone, and gravitational variances that created comfort for both species. As Emperor Xerix signed the final protocol with a crystalline appendage that refracted light across the document, Admiral Yamamoto stood nearby, his weathered face impassive despite the historic moment. The treaty's most revolutionary provision scrolled across display screens: mutual technological exchange programs. "I confess curiosity, Admiral," Emperor Xerix said privately after the formal proceedings. His massive crystalline form towered over the elderly Japanese man. "Our analysis suggests your Black Fleet could have deployed quantum singularity weapons against our homeworld once you acquired our navigational data. Why choose peace when victory was possible?" Yamamoto gazed up at the crystalline emperor. "Because extinction is easy. Coexistence is the greater challenge." Across the chamber, Colonel Santos observed the interaction, her neural implants detecting the subtle harmonic shifts in the Emperor's crystalline structure that indicated genuine contemplation. The treaty included provisions for the modified soldiers that exceeded her expectations, not merely recognition but elevation. They would become humanity's primary representatives in joint scientific ventures, their unique neural architecture ideal for interfacing with both human and alien technologies. Dr. Eliza Wright approached Santos, carrying diagnostic equipment. "Your neural patterns have stabilized with the new configuration. The integration is holding." Santos nodded, feeling the change within her modified consciousness. The folding principles Yamamoto's daughter described. "They've changed how we perceive reality. Not just perceive it," Wright corrected. "Interact with it. Your neural architecture now incorporates elements we adapted from both the Antarctic site technology and Archivist Telex's crystalline data structures." Santos glanced across the room where Mei Yamamoto played with a young Kelveri, the crystalline child learning to manipulate paper into complex origami structures, while Mai patiently demonstrated. "The child knows more about these principles than any of us," Santos observed. "Yamamoto prepared for this moment in ways we're only beginning to understand," Wright replied. "Some modifications aren't physical." Outside the UN complex, crowds gathered to witness the departure of the first joint human-Kelveri scientific vessel. Unlike the military ships that had faced each other in battle, this craft incorporated design elements from both civilizations, sleek human ergonomics alongside crystalline computational arrays. President Chen stood beside ex-Admiral Zorvin on the observation platform. His crystalline form still bore the shame patterns of defeat, yet new growth showed emergent patterns unprecedented in Kelveri physiology. "Your species is affecting our crystalline structure," Zorvin noted, displaying his altered molecular patterns. "Proximity to humans appears to induce adaptation we thought impossible after crystallization." "Perhaps that's why your ancestors feared the precursors," Chen suggested. "They represented change in a culture that had chosen stasis." As the scientific vessel activated its engines, a revolutionary hybrid of human dark energy manipulation and Kelveri crystalline amplification, the crowd fell silent. The ship rose gracefully, then accelerated into the upper atmosphere, leaving a trail that split the light into a rainbow. In the newly established Harmony Station, construction crews from 12 species worked together, former enemies now united in common purpose. The station's unique design incorporated architectural elements from each civilization, a physical manifestation of the new galactic order. Colonel Santos found herself assigned as military liaison to this unprecedented project. Standing in her quarters, she removed her uniform jacket, revealing the neural implants that traced patterns across her skin. Once hidden as marks of shame, they now represented humanity's future. Begin personal log. She instructed the hybrid human-Kelveri computer system. Project Harmony, Day 1. The integration of technologies proceeds faster than projected. The modified soldier's neural architecture provides ideal interfaces between disparate systems. She paused, then added more quietly, personal note. For the first time since the modifications, I dreamed last night. Not of war, but of stars uncharted and civilizations undiscovered. Perhaps Yamamoto's greatest victory was not defeating the Kelveri, but redefining what it means to be human in a universe full of alternatives.